1320 Kings Insider and creator of the Kings Beat, our buddy James Ham here on this Friday to close out the week. James, always great talking for you. Obviously, we've been looking back at the Kings season all week, unfortunately. But one conversation that really got going today was the biggest surprise this season for the Sacramento Kings. If I asked you what is your biggest surprise from this past season from Sacramento, what would it be?
Are we talking player? Are we talking overall theme? What are we talking about?
Whatever you want. Whatever you want. What's when you look back and say, this really surprised me.
I think what really surprised me is that the team won 48 games and was a number 3 seed in the West. Just because there was so much, like baggage to do that. The most this team in my 12 years before the season covering the team, the most they had won was 39 games under Dave Yeager. We're talking about an 18 game increase from last year's win total. And just the way that they were able to stay together, the positivity, the lack of 3-game losing streaks, I'm someone who's covered like multiple 8-game losing streaks, 9-game losing streaks in seasons. And to see a team hold on and just find success and embrace it and not get in their own way and not have drama and not have any of that stuff, I think that to me is the most surprising thing this season.
Find another fan base that just goes, please just don't lose 9 games in a row twice. That's all we're asking. You lose 9 games in a row once, fine. Just don't lose 9 games in a row twice.
Once again, crazy that if they wouldn't have done that twice, they would have made
insane.
All they had to do was just have one 9-game losing streak and then lose 6 of 9 the next time, and they're in the play.
My first season covering this team, I think they lost 8 in a row. Then they beat the Washington Wizards, which was supposed to be DeMarcus Cousins versus John Wall the first time ever in their rookie season. And the Kings won that game, and then they lost 7. So they lost 15 out of 16. So I learned very quickly that losing streaks were going to be a huge part of what was going on.
For me, it was Keegan. I didn't expect Keegan Murray to be this good this quickly. He was. I used the line that like I felt like Keegan's record really started to sneak up on us till it was pretty clear that it was going to happen, and he just quietly hit 203 3-pointers, and it feels like Malik hit like 5,000 really loud 3-pointers, and then of course it's a different style, a different personality, like the whole thing. But I feel like I remember all of Malik's threes. I remember the record-breaking 3 from Keegan. Like, that's the one I remember because he accidentally smiled. That's what I remember about that.
Yeah, but
he's
didn't you
really good? Like, I didn't expect him to be this good.
He averaged 12 points a game. I expect him to do a little bit better than that. Like, to be honest, I'm excited to see where he can go in his career, but I kind of felt like he was going to be around 15 points a game, 16 points a game as a rookie, just because he came in as a ready player, as someone who was seasoned at the college level and more mature, and you kind of knew what his game was. So, I thought he was good, like all season long. I didn't think he was ever, after like the early season chatter, I don't think he was ever in the rookie of the year conversation. I was like super impressed with him at Summer League, and that shows you some of the potential that he has moving forward. But overall, if I'm giving him a grade, it's probably like a solid B on the season. And, there's a lot of room for him to grow and to get better. And this team, the franchise believes he's going to be a star. So that usually helps you if the franchise believes that you can be a star, as opposed to like not really convinced. They're convinced he's going to be great.
Yeah, I think part of it too is, Kenny always talks about, well, that's how you get to an average. Like he averaged 12 points per game. He had like 3s and 2s and 4s. Like he had some like really weird games in there and stretches of weird games, but he also had 30 and 29 and 22. Like he had some pretty big games where you walk away going, man, this Keegan's a dude. Keegan might be a dude.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, when you talk about that, the 30-point games, right? Just remember that, like, coming into this season, Kevin Herter had never averaged 30 and never scored 30 in a game.
Hmm.
So to have a rookie come in and be able to score 30, that's really impressive. That's something, again, that Herter just couldn't do forever. It's something that not all players do in the league. Even Harrison Barnes, like, career high was like 33, and to have a rookie come in and score 30, it just shows you the potential. And I think that the potential is unlimited there. We just have to see how he grows, how his body changes. Again, whether he can be a three, whether he's going to stay at the four, like a lot of things that have to be worked out, like over the next couple of months, but over really the next like 3 or 4 years as he develops.
Shout out to Chester in the chat who says the most surprising thing for him this year was the beam.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Well.
surprised that it came out of left field for everybody. Shout out to the beam. But
It's literally worked into our show. Like, it's in the background of the graphic. Like, it's
never leaving.
It's
The beam is never going anywhere.
It's such a huge part of the Kings now.
Yeah, absolutely. James, I said it was a little different look, but I looked at two guys as high on him as I was. Malik Monk probably exceeded expectations even a little bit for me. Just his game, being able to go off for 30 at any given time, and also his leadership. Like, he was a leader for this team, and I didn't know that about him. I didn't know he had that quality in him. And then also I said Domantas Sabonis. I knew he was good. We saw him at the end of the season. I think we saw 10 games or 14 games of him last year, but even he was even better than I realized this year. He was really, really good this year. One of the top players in the league. And I'm not sure I thought he would be one of the top players of the league coming into the season. So those two guys that I really liked coming into the season even exceeded expectations for me.
It's interesting. Like, we get to the end and, like, you can have those two takes with no problems. Damien can have his. I can have mine. If someone were to say, like, I thought Kevin Herter was much better than I thought, and you get jaded because of the playoff run, but man, Kevin Herter had a really good season. We could talk about Harrison Barnes not falling off like everyone thought he was going to fall off, and still being like probably the third best player on the team through the 82 game schedule, not in the playoffs, but through the 82 game schedule. I think we could talk about like Mike Brown's like first season and how he captured the imagination of the team and how amazing that was. I think we could talk about Trey Lyles, who, like, I talked about it throughout the season. That guy probably won this team like 6 to 8 games. Just flat out, like, he was a difference maker again and again, and he did it in the playoffs too, where he just showed up. And you're like, "Holy cow, look how good this is." So this guy is. So I think it's really interesting that, I mean, I would even say, like, one of the biggest surprises for me this season is that the Kings didn't make a move at the deadline out of Kessler Edwards, and that's not, in basketball world, that's not really making a move. Like, there's a lot of things that happened this season. You know, Monty McNair came into the season as a lame duck general manager. Like, we wrote about it, we talked about it, we just, like, kept saying, like, why is this guy not extended? Why is he not extended? They waited until I think it was January 24th to extend him. I mean, even that in itself is crazy that Monty McNair gets to stay in Sacramento and run this team for the next 4 or 5 years. We don't know what the contract is, but, like, there's a lot of surprises in this season, and I think that's just, it speaks volumes to the success of the team and how well this season went for everybody. Not, I guess not everybody. There are some players that didn't have great breakout seasons, but we could even, like, Alex Len, the last 2 weeks of the season in the first, like, 3 games of the playoffs, you're like, where did this come from? Like, none of, like, this season is filled with a bunch of things that you just can't move, like, you're surprised by.
Do you have a favorite player? Like, I really like that guy. Do you have one?
What, on the team?
Yeah.
Like, as a person or as, like, watching him as a player?
Combo of both.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna say, like, and it's so funny. I just mentioned all of these players. It's De'Aaron. Like, De'Aaron is a superstar, and to watch him as a 19-year-old spiky-haired kid who was brash and cocky, and like, he and I have had all kinds of different conversations over the years about like a myriad of things. Like, to watch him grow up and to become a man and to get married and to have a little dude and to finally realize his potential and to become a star or even superstar level player, to me, that was my favorite part of this season. It was watching someone who could have given in to the chaos that is the Sacramento Kings, that has been the Sacramento Kings, but he stuck it out and he got to fulfill his potential, but also like he got to fulfill what he said he would do when he got here.
Yeah.
And that was to bring this team back to the playoffs. And so that's probably, to be honest, my favorite part of this season is to watch him become a star and to like get the recognition and to feel like the Kings did something really, really right with at least one player. And it took a while, but he's there now. And now it's kind of cool. You get to see where he goes from here.
I've said it a few different times this year, but when you just go back to what was on his plate as he was drafted, like unlike maybe Tyreek had these same type of expectations or whatever, but you could tell me, James, I don't know if any Kings draft pick had the expectations before the draft that De'Aaron Fox had. And then before the draft, people wanted him. They got him. They said, this is the guy. He's going to lead us back to the promised land. And I know everybody wants a championship or whatever, but relevancy, the playoffs, like he did it. He did it. He actually did what so many people hoped he would do. He did what he said he wanted to do. He got it done, man. He achieved it, man. And I feel the same way about that. I love to see that. And I don't think a lot of people take the time to look at it like that all the time, that he actually accomplished the things that we were hoping that he would.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about that when you bring that up, like we've talked about this before. So he's a 2017 draft. Willie Cauley-Stein's 2016. 2000, I mean, it's 2015. 2016 is what Yorgos Papagiannis, Malachi Richardson, and Skal Labissiere, and they bring over Bogdan Bogdanovic. They trade for Buddy Hield. And then his rookie season, they bring Bogdan over. They have Harry Giles. They have Justin Jackson with the 15th pick. Frank Mason, early second round pick. You get to Marvin Bagley the next year. My point is that everyone else is gone. Everyone else failed and he didn't. And I think that that's a really, really interesting component to this, that he's the one guy that not only stuck it out, but who was good enough to keep going and keep producing and becoming something special and leading the franchise to where they needed to be.
I wonder how the success too, because you talked about this a couple of days ago, James, about how you expect them to be like even better, having like a baseline of 27, 28 points per game or something along those lines. And for some guys like failure can really motivate people, right? And you hear that a lot about how failure drove me, sometimes success can drive you. And the fact that he saw this level of success for the first time in his career, not only individually, but with his team. He kind of strikes me with his personality, how he might be driven by that even more so than the failures of the past.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, he's a guy who's been left behind. Even if you look at his draft class, Jason Tatum, of course, is the superstar of the draft class, but his buddies, Donovan Mitchell and Bam Adebayo, have always been just like widely considered better players than him. And they're not. And after this season, they probably won't be considered that, like just, wildly better players than him. And so again, I think he is motivated, but I also think he got a taste for things this season, and none of them came with it just wasn't straight up. So you get to the All-Star game, he doesn't get in, right? He has to wait for an injury replacement to get in. And he was pretty pissed about that. And he was vocal about it, like afterwards, like, it's about time. Like I thought I should have been there before. And then you get to the playoffs, and again, people just overlook him and think about like all the other players on in that series. You watch, the promos for TNT are Sabonis and Steph Curry. That TNT puts an entire like video montage of Steph Curry as the promo for the series. They ignore De'Aaron Fox. So I think that finding something that he was able to create that was his own this season, which is a fourth quarter magic, that's something that he's carved out a niche that he holds in the NBA now. He's Mr. Clutch. And he may not win that award every year, but he is Mr. Clutch now, right? And that's something that I think separates him. It gives him like something that he can hang his hat on, but he can also like build off of. And it makes him different than the other guys that are around his age that are getting the accolades that he's getting, that he wasn't getting. And now all of a sudden, he's at a point in his career where he's got a playoff team. He's got, really good pieces all around him. They have a chance to improve this roster greatly in the offseason if they take some risks. And now he feels like he's a guy that he might be the guy that has to take a team to a championship, not just break a playoff drought. And that's a big step for a player. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see how does he handle the success? How does he move forward? Can he improve as a shooter? Can he, get stronger so he can last a full 82 game season and then potentially another whatever it is in the playoffs, another 28 games of somehow you get all the way through. I think it's cool to watch the maturation of a player like this.
It's like to your point, Damien, you might be like, man, I ain't going back.
Yeah.
I'm not. I've seen that ugly side over there, man. I'm not going back, man. I can't go back. I got a little taste of this. And
I've been to the valleys and yeah.
Even the Halliburton stuff, like he was just kind of pushed to the side, and like Halliburton became like everyone's favorite. And it's like, hang on a sec, I'm still the best player here. Like, what's going on? And like here he is out there averaging 12 points a game, Halliburton that is, and everyone's acting like he's a superstar in Sacramento. He's really good for a young player, but like there was a ton of room for growth. But Fox was still the best player, and it's one of those things where he's got to. He's growing into who he should be and who he should have been before.
It's funny James referenced the Steph Curry promo. It's like, yeah, they didn't even include De'Aaron Fox. They didn't even include the Sacramento Kings. It was like some sort of multiverse of Steph versus Steph on ESPN.
How do you not have that? Like, it's the speed demon, the slasher versus a shooter. Like, how can you not build something out of that? Like, the lack of creativity by the TNT guys is just alarming. Like, what were you thinking?
Changes? Do you think this year, from all involved, the Kings and De'Aaron did enough to change those types of things next year?
We'll have to see. Do they get 12 nationally televised games? Do they get 8? Because this season they came into the year without a single true. Well, did they have one and then they took it away?
They took
Houston,
the one away. Yep.
Yeah. So that was their only true national television game, and now I think that will be totally different this year. Like they might they may make them start small, like 5, but if this team is good, they're going to steal a bunch of them. If they're still fun and athletic and like the high powered offense and stuff, they're going to get all kinds of exposure that they weren't getting before.
Yeah, no, I'm putting them at about 12 to 15, and I think a lot of that has to do with their style of play. It's not just that they're good. I mean, it's going to be an entertaining game when they're out there on the court. I also think they'll piggyback off of the atmosphere at Golden One Center to kind of help get them through the regular season, the NBA through the regular, like they would like that, right? They want regular season games to have intensity and to have an environment and have a certain scene to it. And I think you get that at Golden One Center. So I think all those things combined, I think they're getting 12 to 15 national TV games.
Everyone keeps asking, Kings on Christmas Day. Man, I hope not. I like Christmas. I don't want to go
No, you're gonna have to
work a
work,
game.
James.
I don't want to work a game on Christmas Day.
You're working on Christmas, James. Sorry,
Like,
buddy.
no, yeah. I mean, maybe that'll happen. I just think it's really interesting the way that a team can change the perception on the outside in one season. Like the outside is completely changed on who this team is and what they can be, and we'll start seeing the narrative change on guys like Vivek. Well, hopefully, we start seeing the narrative change on a guy like Mike Brown,
Yeah.
that who just has not got his due at all as a coach. I mean, came into this year with a 616 win percentage. It went down a little bit, but there's a good chance it'll go right back up next season. And like he's just an excellent coach, and we don't know if he can get a team over the hump and to an actual championship. But this is a coach who actually led a team to the NBA Finals. And it was a bad team outside of
Yeah.
LeBron James. Like
Yeah.
LeBron James and like 14 like dudes. That's
LeBron
all it
and
was.
Snoop.
Yeah, LeBron and some dudes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a quick question for James. Who do you think gets better? How do I phrase this? Who goes to another level next year? Sabonis or Keegan?
Oh, it's Keegan. Yeah. Like for me, I think Sabonis is who he is, and that's perfectly fine. I think he'll get better at like the high post jump shot. He'll improve. He'll get stronger. He'll do all the things that you want him to do. But his arms aren't going to get longer. He's not going to become a natural shot blocker. His assist numbers will still be dependent on the shooters that are around him. Like I think he can improve and get more efficient. But realistically, look at his numbers. Like we're talking about one of the best players in the league, like 19 points, leads the league in rebounds with 12 and a half, like with 7.2 assists, shoots like 63% from the field. Like this was such an elite player that I just don't know how you ask him to get all that much better. But I would hope that he can maintain this level of play for like 6, 7, 8 years. Like that's what you're hoping. And I'll keep stating it. Like he makes 3 more All-Star teams and he's considered for the Hall of Fame. He makes 4 more All-Star teams. He's a Hall of Famer without any question. Like that's what we're looking at. We're not like people like disrespect him so heavily. Is he like as flashy as, some of the other big name centers like Joel Embiid or Jokic or even Anthony Davis? No, but he still puts up numbers like Jokic, just a little bit less in every category except for rebounds. And he's a lot healthier than Embiid or Anthony Davis. He shows up every day with his hard hat, on his lunch pail, and he puts in a really solid day's work. And the team can keep getting better with him staying exactly who he is. You just have to get the pieces around him that can improve and get better. And that's where I think Keegan will be in line to probably be closer to like 17-6 next season, maybe even a little bit more than that, maybe 18-6. And that's where I think he can take statistically a huge jump. Like whether that means that like Sabonis hasn't taken a leap. No, I think Sabonis will continue to get better as a player because that's who he is. But I don't think his numbers will change all that much.
Is
17-6 would be wow.
Is Keegan's next step the biggest? Is it the most important component to the Kings growing next year?
Probably. I mean, I still think like Kevin Herter can get better. I think Kevin Herter can easily average 17 points a game next season. I think Malik Monk can. Again, we talked about this. So both Herter and Monk have like these peaks and valleys, and they need someone to iron all that out. And so, you get more of a consistent effort from both of them night in and night out. You don't have these giant swings in who they are and what they're doing. That's one way that this team gets way better. But again, I think Herter will have opportunities, and it really does depend on if Harrison Barnes is back next season. I think we could see somewhat similar stats, except for more points for a guy like Keegan, and those points will probably come away from someone else. But if Harrison Barnes isn't there and they go with more of a defensive minded player at that position, I think you're going to see Keegan really take off and be more of an offensive cog for this team than he has been this season.
I'm just stuck on, and not that it's outrageous. I can absolutely see it, but man, if Keegan gets to that point where he's 17, 18 point per game scorer, and you got Fox averaging 27, you got Sabonis averaging 20, Keegan averaging 17, Herter around 15 to 17, Monk is going to give you his 14. Man, they're just as dynamic again.
Maintain and improve,
man,
right?
That was just as dynamic.
That was the Monty McNair line, maintain and improve.
Because what did Keegan do this year? About 13? 13 again?
12.
12 again.
12. Yeah. Yeah, and look, I think he's a victim of circumstance as much as anything. And the one concern I have is that, like, Keegan bought in fully and allowed this to be who he was this season. I wonder if there's a way for him to understand and take that next step. We did see it in a playoff game, though, where all of a sudden he took over and scored 23 points in a playoff game. That's what he's got to do. He's got to, like, he can't look around and wait for permission to be great, because I felt like there were too many times this season where that's what he did. Like, he wasn't willing to be great in a game because he knew that wasn't his role. But sometimes you just have to go and take it. And just, as long as you're not doing silly things, which he never does, he needs to make sure that he has that extra oomph in him. The Kings, they're pretty convinced he's going to be like a 20-point plus per game scorer for his career. So, like, him taking some giant leap to average 17, that's what's expected. Yeah, I mean, look at De'Aaron Fox, rookie season, 12 points a game, second season, 17 points a game, third season, 20, fourth season, 25, the next season was 23 point something, and then up to 25 again.
Yeah. I don't think he's this, but I've seen a couple of people in the chat say Jason Tatum. I didn't realize Jason Tatum only averaged 14 points a game his rookie year. He was 14, 15, and then in the third year he goes to 23.
Wow.
I don't think Keegan is that, but damn, I thought Tatum was at least like 18, 19 from the jump, but I mean that leads to what you're talking about, Ham. Like, if he can get it, there is room for major improvement.
Yeah, and I think the guy he really draws comparisons to isn't Jason Tatum. It's more of Chris Middleton, and you can look at his progress. Like, he started at 6 points a game, got to 12, got to 13.4. In year 4, he went to 18. Then he went back to 14.7, then up to 20. And, he's been around 20 for most of his career after that. That's kind of where I see Keegan. Keegan's going to find his way and be around, 18 to 20 points a game almost every single season in his career. He's just going to he's an easy scorer. Like, it's an easy bucket. So you're going to keep going to him. And I think that he'll continue to progress.
We'll come back. We've got more with James Ham. James, I want to go back to Domas for a few minutes because I was looking at Anthony Slater's article. He put out, the numbers regarding the new CBA, and you both have talked about how, a negotiation is possible, but why it's not likely. And something popped into my head for the first time regarding this upcoming season in Domantas Sabonis, and I want to run that by you, and we'll do that when Dealing with KC, brought to you by Sky River Casino. 32 Brew Street is the place to catch all of the action. Watch all your favorite games on over 70 TV screens. 32 Brew Street at Sky River Casino. More here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320.
I'm watching game 2 of everybody's friendly confines. Real Madrid and the
weirdo dude.
They got more people in the stands, it looks like, today for games.
It's looking a lot friendlier today, or what?
Man. Goodness gracious. Hammer's getting a breaking news text. Something's happening.
No, I'm doing some math for
Kings have traded for Giannis.
Yeah, like the Knicks. Thanks, Mr. Wave Your Fingers in the Air. The Knicks would love Giannis. Like, all right, what team in the league doesn't want Giannis?
Yeah.
All of the teams.
Jesse, you out at 4 to get home by 4:30, right? So what do we have it for? Run it back? Oh, sorry, man. Yeah, we got to get you out of here.
You can just go into Aaron's office.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just go sit down in Aaron's office. I don't understand why is it that difficult to get a Hulu password?
What?
Shit, I'll connect my YouTube live to this. We're trying to get the TV turned on in here, and they're making it mission impossible.
They're not even like smart TVs either. I can't even cast to it or like screen mirror.
Oh,
Do
that's
you need? I can give you a Hulu password if you need it.
no. We all have passwords. We just this is a smart TV, isn't it?
It's supposed to be.
I know when I open something and try to airdrop, I can send it to Stacy's TV.
Yeah, I only get the cafeteria TV and then some other TV in this building.
I agree with Leezy. Y'all need a Fire Stick. I have like 7 Fire Sticks in my house. Like they're the greatest thing ever.
What's
Yeah,
a
I got a
Fire
lot.
Stick again?
It's Amazon.
It's like a smart TV before it's smart TV.
It's like a
So
Roku.
it's like Apple TV.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but yeah, you just plug it in, and it has you can hook all of your different accounts up to it. So, like my Fire Sticks have Netflix and Paramount and ESPN Plus and YouTube TV and Hulu, HBO, Apple TV. Like they're all accessible right there. You just move the little thing around and click.
The Fire Stick was kind of came out right before they started making smart TVs. Like now all the TVs have all those apps on it, but before the TVs wouldn't. You get the Fire Stick and you get all those apps.
I always thought the Fire Stick was the illegal thing with all of the.
Oh, it can be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can crack a Fire Stick. Plus,
Get
the
it.
other thing with a Fire Stick, if you go on the road, you can just take your Fire Stick with you, hook it up to a hotel.
It's like a USB, right?
Yeah. Well, no, HDMI. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I mean, you can take it anywhere. So we went on vacation to Maui like last year, year before. We took the Fire Stick, and during quiet times, we were all hanging out watching, Psych reruns.
Oh, there you go.
Bro,
Man,
I
might get one just to have you do it.
People used to charge like $100 to jailbreak these things. Went on YouTube, 15-minute video. Show me how to jailbreak it.
I had somebody jailbreak a Wii, and so then I could go, and it has a hard drive attached. You go to the red box, old school red box. You rent a game, bring it home, load it in. It downloads onto the hard drive. So we ended up with like 200 and something Wii games, which was fun.
This isn't true, authorities. James is
Not
just
at
telling
all.
stories. This show is for entertainment.
Dana White's
Only
got
purpose is only.
house right now.
We're entertainers. That's all we are.
We're watching them right now. Hey, before we come back, does anybody, let's ask this question. Anybody understand what the big deal is with F1? Why people are so
it's a
hyped with it
thing.
right
No,
now?
I don't.
It's just the cool thing now, I think.
I don't. They're really
It's
hyped
going
for it right
crazy
now.
right now.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
They had the show at Netflix that got pretty big, I guess. I think that's what it's from.
Years ago, I knew how to
Yeah.
program DirecTV cards. That was years ago. And then you forget to pull the card out when you left the house, and you come back and it's stuck on the movie you were watching, and then you're embarrassed that you were watching that movie when
that
boy.
happens.
when your card got burnt. You're like, oh, I can't believe I was watching Joe Dirt before work. I got my card burnt for stupid ass Joe Dirt.
Go Dirt.
Don't church it up, Dirt.
Go Dirt. That's a wild callback. I've actually seen that movie.
That's funny.
Go Dirt.
Joe Dirt.
I think they ended up making Joe Dirt too.
I think that's accurate. Oh. Yeah, I heard there's like a Netflix show that really turned people into. All right, we're coming back, guys.
All right.
Just a quick reminder, this show is for entertainment purposes only. That's all we're here for, just entertainment purposes only.
Shout out to Sha'Carri Richardson. She broke a world record today.
Oh, what was the time?
think it was 10 point. I don't know. Don't give me the line, but like 10.56 or something like that.
Okay.
In the 100.
Wow.
She's back.
Weed speeds you up. Boy, I like it. I like it. I like it. Our 1320 Kings insider James Ham here with us. Hammer, we were talking about Domas a little bit earlier, the type of player that he is, what he is. Anthony Slater wrote a really good article in the Athletic today, and he outlined the kind of pitfalls of which we've talked about many times here on this show regarding what Domas can be offered. Even with the new collective bargaining agreement coming to play, it's still significantly more financially beneficial for him to become a free agent, hopefully negotiate with the Kings and be with the Kings long term. One thing I hadn't thought about, though, and it's a pretty substantial difference. I mean, it's $27 million per year to $42 million per year, with the option, with the ability to have a fifth year on that contract, which completely takes the dollar figure somewhere else. But one thing I hadn't thought about, Hammer, until now is we talk about the pressure of the season and potentially the pressure of following up on what you did this year, proving to everybody that it wasn't a 1-year fluke and all of those types of things, capitalizing on clutch player of the year, coach of the year, executive of the year. But what I didn't think about is there's got to be pressure on Domantas Sabonis this year, doesn't there? With knowing that this contract is lingering and there's not really anything you can do about it. It's not like the team's not offering him something. It's not like the team doesn't want it. He just has to become a free agent. That's how this works. Do you think that could add a little extra pressure to Domas this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a concern, right? Especially when you just had a playoff series where it did not go well. And you were like somebody figured out how to stop you or at least limit you in the playoffs. And so you go from being, the 3-time All-Star and all the buzz in the world, and he's probably going to be second or third team All NBA. And then you get to, sort of the postseason and it doesn't look the same. And all of a sudden people are like, oh, well, he's not a max money player. Like we've seen that guy before. And so like if I'm Domas, I'm listening to whatever the Kings have to offer. And it's complicated, but it's not impossible for the Kings to get him to sign an extension. Like again, they would have to do something called they would renegotiate. It would be like they give him a raise and extend. So they can give him a raise if they have cap space this summer. And they do have cap space, but their cap space is complicated.
But doesn't it kill their cap space?
Well, it does and it doesn't. So yeah, it would if you're gonna let's just for instance, okay, so he makes $19.4 million next season, but he has $2.6 million in incentives, half of which are easily obtainable, so they count against your salary cap. So realistically, his salary cap figure for next season is 20.7. Now, if we do the 140% off of that, then like everyone's right. He can get offered like $132 million over a 5-year extension, right? But if you do something different and you give him $5 million of your cap space and push his salary for next season to 25.7 million, you do two things. Number one, you give him $5 million up front, like here's an extra $5 million for this season. Secondly, his extension would now be based 140% of his salary would be based off of 25.6. So I have that as a starting salary of right at 36 million for the extension. So an extension at that with 8% raises would be 36, almost 39, 42, 45, and then 49. And it would be 42 million on average over a 5-year period after next season, but it'd be a $211 million extension. I think that that's something he would sign. Now, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe everyone's thinking, oh, he's going to get max money because he's going to get something even bigger than that because, you can give him super max money. And if the salary cap goes up, his salary might be based off of a higher salary cap figure, all that stuff. I still think that this is really, really good money for who and what Sabonis is and what he means to a team and what like that team can build around him going forward. I mean, $49 million in as like a 31-year-old guy is a lot of money. Or 30 or 31. Yeah. Like, I mean, that would be a huge extension for him. And I don't think that he's going to sit there and just like say, oh, no, that's not enough. The problem is Harrison Barnes has a $27 million cap hold for this summer. So you can't really do anything until you decide what you're going to do with Harrison Barnes. The Kings look like they have salary cap space. They don't until Harrison Barnes' contract situation is figured out. If they're going to sign and trade him, that's one thing. And then you basically can move the money. So if you sign and trade him for like a $12 million player, now you have 12 million on the books, not 27. If you just like say goodbye and just like waive him, then you waive your rights to him, then of course you would have like the ability to access some of that money, but it's not the whole thing. So I think again, the Harrison Barnes situation is going to play really heavily into the Kings season, off season. And it's not just for like whether he's back or not. It's a lot more complex than that.
So I read something last night. A guy Rory was kind of breaking some things down, and what would keep the Kings from you talk about the cap hold on Harrison, and we talk about the cap hold on Trey Lyles, and Rory brought up a good point of why wouldn't they just renounce all the rights to everybody except Trey Lyles? And they wouldn't, if they did that, they wouldn't have to deal with no cap hold situation, right?
Well, they wouldn't, but cap holds have value outside of just like they do have value.
What's the like if Harrison's going to test free agency anyway, like why are you keeping that cap hold on there and restricting what you could do with your money?
Because even if you take the cap hold off and it looks like you have $20 million in cap space, right? You don't really have $20 million in cap space. You have $10 million or $8 million in standard cap space and another 12 million in mid-level exception. And then you have to renounce your mid-level in order to use that cap space as well. So I know it's like this is finer nuance of the cap. It's complicated, it's weird, and some people just don't want to listen to it. But
yeah, it gives you a headache.
Yeah, but here's my point. That if you renounce Harrison Barnes, you can still sign him for like an MLE at like 12 million. You could also like bring him back at 15 million and then deal with whatever's left of your cap. But at that point, you have to renounce your mid-level exception as well. If you sign Harrison Barnes to an extension and he's now your player, but you get him at like 13 or 14 million, you still have your mid-level exception that you can use because he's a Larry Bird player. He's a bird rights player, just like Trey Lyles is a bird rights player, but he's what's called an early bird player. So he can make up to the average salary in the NBA, which again is going to be around 11 or 12 million bucks. And you're not going to pay Trey Lyles that much, but you can, once you sign all of your players, you can go up and above the cap to sign Trey Lyles using the early bird exception.
I got you. That makes sense.
So the bird rights or early bird rights, those are the only guys you can go over your cap for to sign?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. Yeah, bird rights, basically you can circumvent the cap and go way over the top of the cap to re-sign a player like Harrison Barnes if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you just look at Harrison, if Harrison is eating up all of your cap space, you can still go out and use a mid-level exception, which is a $12 million starting salary right now. Like once July 1st kicks in, you could go chase a player, which is what they did with Malik Monk last year, right? They went out and got Malik Monk using the MLE. So you can use that and still have this huge, huge cap hold that is Harrison Barnes. It's once you decide if you waive that cap space, if you waive his cap hold, now he's just a standard free agent. Anyone has the rights to him just like you do, but you also are limited by your cap space and as to how you can sign him. You almost have to do things in steps. If you got me, like you don't do anything with like the biannual exception until after you've taken up all of these other exceptions and all your cap space and all that stuff, that's when you sign your biannual exception guy, which is going to be roughly like a 2-year, $9 million contract. That's probably what they're saving for Sasha Vezenkov.
Okay. Well, that's a lot.
It's complicated. It is. And, again, like we're talking about like extend and trades or renegotiate and extensions. Again, you can sign and trade Harrison Barnes, but if you renounce the rights to Harrison Barnes, you lose all value in
You're
him.
stuck. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You're basically telling him you're not going to pay him more than like $10 million a year.
The renegotiated and extend, just in your opinion, how likely do you think that is?
Man, I think like I'm looking at why not? Like if you at least have to offer it. But again, you have to plan out your summer the right way. So if you're able to sign Harrison Barnes for $12 million and you have cap space still, or if you're like there's a lot of ways you can use, it just has to be done in the right stages. But I don't see why not. Like the Kings, I think are going to be active, but at the end of all of their negotiating with everybody else, they would still have to have cap money to go work with. And that's where that's going to come in. Like, can they get everything else they need done and offer him an additional like $5 million a year? Because the key is offering a $5 million a year this summer. So his extension would be based off 140% of that number, not off of the 20.7 million number. If that makes sense.
Yeah. If I was Domas, and I know, probably part of me is looking at this, as a fan, as a supporter of the Kings, but if I was Domas, I'd have to really think about doing that. I mean, if that scenario that James laid out is right there for you, I mean, that's there. That's there. Anything could happen in the next year. Anything could happen. You got a lottery ticket. Like if you're looking at what you say, James, it would end up being like 130 or something like that. All with the extensions and stuff.
No. That's the 130s. That's the new cap number, isn't it? That's without the
134 is the
increase.
Yeah, no, like the new salary cap number is 134 million. If we're talking about how much Domas can get, his extension is going to be capped at around, it's like 132 or 140.
Yeah.
It's based off a starting salary that's like 7 million less than what I'm talking about.
Right. And if with what you're talking about, is that even including in the All NBA and what that does for him too? Does that do anything for him or?
Well, that's when we start getting into Supermax and all that stuff, because
it's not his contract,
right? It does. It's not the team who drafted him. Yeah.
Yeah, but he can still get a Supermax, I believe. And that's based off of how you're. Well, I'll have to go back and look.
I don't think Domas can get one. I feel like I think it was Tim Maxwell asked our guy Keith Smith about, because he's a super capology cap guy.
Yeah.
And he said, unfortunately not, even with he can't. Like, I think specifically what Tim was asking him is, if Domas made All NBA, does that throw everything out the window and allow the Kings to give him that contract now? But the answer to both of them was no,
because he's not on the
rookie deal. He's with the team. Yeah,
that would have been the Pacers who could have gave him that.
Right.
No, because he wasn't drafted by the Pacers.
Well, but he was traded during his rookie contract.
If
you're traded during your rookie contract, like he's on a second contract. He's on, the contract that's got them in this predicament right now. He's on the bargain contract.
I would think about it though. Is that crazy?
No, for sure.
Like if I was Sabonis, like I'd be like, I don't know if I'd ultimately do it.
What the renegotiate and no, it's not crazy. It's 200 and what James say? 210 million?
Yeah, 210. Yeah,
versus what would probably be what, like 250?
About 250.
I have to see too. Like it depends if he can get the 5th year on the deal.
Mhm.
That's going to be the confusing thing. And I'll go back and look, but like again, if he can get the 5th year, so basically to be under contract for 6 years, that just puts him in a totally different ballpark as far as like money.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Like
I
again,
think about if I was Sabonis and his agent.
Sure.
And everything. It's right there.
they've
on
got to
the-
listen. Yeah.
You get and it also, like not everybody's motivated by the same thing.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like you're hitting a contract like that. You're set, your family set. But by the way, I don't know this. I don't think Domas is poor. Like he's coming from a hell of a ball player family. Like
he's already not poor. He's
right.
made
That's
like
what I
80
mean.
million or no,
That's
like by himself.
right.
Like he's at least made 50 million.
There's a point where you're stacking generational wealth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know like what drives him. I don't think anyone looks at a $220 million contract as disrespectful.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know how Domas thinks.
James, you probably would know a little bit more. And you're right. We don't know. But from everything that we've heard from him, it feels like the ability to win and stability hold a lot of weight with him.
Yeah.
And if it was 220 compared to 250, but I know I can tell my family right now we're here for the next 5 years. I might take, if I'm Domas, I might take the 220. I might leave 30 million on the table and take 220 just for that stability and an opportunity to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing I'll always go back to is his first press conference. He stopped saying this since, but his first press conference, he came in, they won a game, like it was like exhilarating. All the fans that met him, like all this stuff that happens, right? And he says, I found my NBA home. I've been searching for my NBA home, and I think I found it. He since when because I've asked him that repeatedly, he goes into agent speak now. Well, they're like, we'll have to wait until the summer, or
Understandable.
like,
Yeah.
and I fully get that. But at the same time, like they bought a house in like Napa. They have a house here. His wife has another baby on the way. Like if you're around this team and like, again, there's a daycare out there with 13 small children that from coaches and executives at the Sacramento Kings. Like everybody has like 2 or 3 little tiny kids, and to have that is like it has a real family vibe. And I think that that's going to be a big part of it too. Like your support system has a support system here in Sacramento, and that's huge. Like the De'Aaron's wife having a little baby, and like all of these people having little kids. Harrison Barnes, even his little girl is 2 now. Well, I think she'll be 2 in August. But to have all of these, it's a real family feel, and so I think it's part of it. Like all of the package that Sacramento is offering right now, if they can get remotely close to the money by using cap space this summer, it is intriguing. It's going to be intriguing for them because this is starting to feel more and more like home.
Not the same. I understand that.
Mhm.
Just an observation. Mr. Arvydas Sabonis played for one NBA team.
There you go.
Now, he didn't have a 20-year career because he was an overseas guy when he was younger, but he played from the age of 31, retired at 37, came back at 38, played 78 games coming out of retirement, all for the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah.
Just an observation. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
This is a lot of money we're talking about either way. And you would hope that he would listen and he would, that this is where he wants to be. And I think it's where he wants to be. Like
It's
everything we
also-
hear.
It does kind of suck. Like the Kings are like, we didn't give him that contract. Like we didn't sign him to the friendly deal. Let us give him what we want.
Yeah. Well, it's the same. It's why like trading for OG Anunoby is a huge risk because he's in the same exact situation. His contract for next season is like 19 point something. And then he has a player option for the year after that. But there's no way he's opting into that player option. That dude's going to make 30+ million a year. And you have to make sure that like, if you swing for the fences with a guy like that, you got to make sure that you're spending your money wisely because you already know that you're going to have to max Fox again. You know that Sabonis is going to get close to max or max. And then like, when do you run out of money? When do you become like the Golden State Warriors, where you're paying, $400 million a year in luxury tax? And Sacramento can't do that. Like the Kings can't do that.
I give you OG or Mikal. Which one would you take?
Well, I would probably take Mikal because he doesn't have the injury history, but I really, really like.
He's got the contract too. Like he's
Yeah.
already signed.
But you saw that like they were offered 4 first-round picks. That was the report. They were offered 4 first-round picks. The Nets were when they traded for Mikal, and they turned it down.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They're not moving him.
But not trading Mikal Bridges is the right call, by the way.
No, I totally agree.
1,000% the right call. We got a long off season ahead. Figure all of this out.
A few more days like this.
Yeah, I was going to say we'll probably have a very, very similar conversation to this one 10 more times.
Let's go.
But here's the good news. The lottery is like a little less than over a week away. Don't affect us.
It feels like the first time since they started broadcasting it that we can just watch. Okay, let's see what happens.
That's very possible.
First time since 2007. Although there was a 2020 season, right, where they didn't have a pick.
Didn't have a pick.
Yeah. That was depressing. We don't even have a pick.
We've just
2019.
We've just blocked 2020 out. I think the show is over. Yep, show's over. We appreciate you guys so much for being with us. Don't worry, though. If you're listening on the Odyssey app, if you're listening on ESPN 1320 AM, don't go anywhere. We'll run it back here for you. You need some listening material this weekend. Make sure you catch up on all episodes of The King's Beat. Head over to thekingsbeat.com. Become a premium subscriber now. 1, so you can take part in the happy hours. 2, so you can stay up to date on all the Sacramento Kings offseason